What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Track Talk Podcast. We are your hosts, Emma and Hannah, and our third member is joining us for today's episode. It's Boston. I'm not even going to intro her. Y'all know her. She's back.
Hi, Boston.
My God, thank you guys. Settle down, settle down. Thank you so much. The standing ovation was not needed.
Um, Quick before we get into the episode, Boston, how are you doing with Lewis Hamilton and Ferrari?
Don't no, I don't have words to express
It's fair.
my elation, my gratitude. Like when I say I used to pray for times like this, I'm not saying that as an exaggeration. I would get down on my hands and knees and pray to whatever higher power was out there and say, please give me a miracle. And I apparently have done enough good deeds that it happened for me. So I'd like to be very, actually, maybe I don't want to talk about it now, but I do want to talk about the online hate that I'm getting right now. I do want to
Oh,
address
yeah,
that
okay. We
at
can get
this
to
point.
that. I saw that coming for you. We can get to that.
Yeah. Okay.
Hi, Emma.
Um, yeah, so we you would just jump into the video that gave us hate. Are we jumping into that?
Sure. Do you want
Okay,
to describe what it was? Well,
leave
wait, hold
me
on.
leave me two
Hannah,
minutes to talk about motorsport news, and then we can get into the event. Is that cool?
Yeah.
I
copy.
literally need 2 minutes.
Go for it.
This is an update from last week. So last week we chatted about the FIA new sanctions that are going to be put on drivers when they cause moral injury to the FIA. Okay. That statement alone is wild. We put out our statement, what we thought happened, what I think happened, really. And we didn't necessarily like criticize the FIA for putting out sanctions for this because that's normal for a sporting regulation or for sporting regulations, but it's the fact that the FIA seemingly does not work alongside their drivers association to make this a collaborative effort to make the sport better and to ensure that their drivers are not publicly criticizing them by being a helpful governing body to the drivers association. So this week, it did come out that the GPDA, the Grand Prix Drivers Association, did find out about those new sanctions that were going to be placed on them through social media. So this is where I think I'm not going to toot my own horn, but I kind of am. That's kind of where I hit the nail on the head with last week's episode, which was that these two organizations are not in communication or working together, and it's a very hostile working environment between the two. The GPDA not finding out about these sanctions until it hits the media is a slap in the face to the drivers organization. And it furthers my point that there's no communication and that the FIA really did this as a response to the GPDA's initial statement about sanctions way back, I don't know, maybe like November or October. Um, and this is just wild to me because, like we said last week, like in any sporting series or league or whatnot, these two teams have to work together to make sure that the sport and that their athletes and their employees are properly, well, they're happy in their roles as employees. And am I surprised? Like, not really. But does this further like the disappointment with the FIA? Like, absolutely. And Toto Wolff came out this week saying that he, like we said, doesn't think that it's a bad thing that the FIA is putting these sanctions in place because if you do criticize your governing body, you probably should get a fine. But it's the fact that they're doing nothing to stop the drivers from criticizing them by making their roles easier as drivers. They're still making tough calls on track that are putting drivers in danger. They would still be putting through these weird rules about swearing and jewelry and stuff like that. And instead of working alongside the drivers to make it a better working environment for them, it's just sanction. So that's what I have to say on that.
That's insane that they
Very
found
good
out.
explanation.
Thank you.
It's insane that they found out through social media. Like,
It also doesn't surprise me.
mm-mm.
Right.
Like
Disappointed, but
like
not
you it, disappointed but not surprised, and it's yeah, I it's frustrating because like certain drivers have been trying to fight this issue for a really long time, and the FIA is not happy about it. So they're just not tolerating them. They're not respecting them. And it's
Yeah.
disappointing because it's like any other, like you said, Han, any other organization. We have HR implements to put in place because these are people. We need to take care of our people. And they're just not giving them the respect that it's very disappointing.
Yeah. Yeah. It is a respect thing for sure. And it's like a gag order. It's like silencing them instead of actually dealing with the problem at hand, which is that the FIA continues to put forth these bizarre rules that the drivers don't respect. And like these drivers, they if there was like conversations, they could probably come to an agreement about like the swearing stuff. Like, okay, you know what? We're gonna have a conversation. And Max, you actually can't swear in this media setting, but in other media settings, okay, like it's all good. But this one,
Right.
because it's televised, and this is the reason why we just can't have that happening here. It's a sponsorship thing, whatever. We're gonna lose sponsors because I don't know, whatever. Then maybe
Yeah.
your drivers like when once you've reasoned with them, they understand the reason why FIA is putting forward these new rules, but they're not putting forward new rules. They were just penalizing the drivers. So, anyways,
Honestly, like I expect some sort of strike to happen this season. I would like,
Yeah.
or like even like right before the season starts. I just, I would not be surprised if that happened. I've done it before.
Yeah. They've done it before, and I hope they stand up for what they believe in and their rights and all this kind of stuff. Like good for them. These are people of power. They should use it for
Mhm.
good.
yeah, I think that was my one piece of like Formula One news for the week. We can move forward, and going forward, I will be a fly on the wall because I too would like to hear about the experience that you both had at the Ford performance launch. It's not about me.
Well,
It's not about me.
no, it was Hannah. Where were you?
Yeah, so we announced last week we were both gonna go, and
And Hannah
I
lied to everyone.
I lied. I didn't mean to lie, but I did fall ill with the stomach flu, or the norovirus. I'm actually not sure which it was. The night before I was supposed to leave, I called Emma at 4 in the morning, and I don't even know why I was calling you. Like I didn't even know what to say.
I didn't answer. I was
And you
asleep.
didn't
And
answer. I
also,
know.
I'm honored that you called me. I probably would have said like, okay, take a nap. I'll see you in a few hours. Like,
I
Well,
didn't
and
get a
I didn't
call. I
have the
got a
luxury of
text.
that. Yeah, I didn't have the luxury of that. Oh, I would have called. I was thinking about calling Boston. I'm like, who would know what to do? But I also know how much you love your sleep. So,
Well, it's not only that, is I'm a dead sleeper. I also would not have picked up.
yeah. So, and here's the thing, like, okay, so obviously I'm 25 and like this should not be a thing, but like I live by myself here in the States and like I didn't know what to do. Like, what am I supposed to do in this situation? I would have gone to my mom and been
Yeah.
like, Mom, what do I do? And if I was just telling Emma before we started recording, like if my flight had been like a little later in the day or like the next morning, like the morning of the event, I probably could have like drugged myself up and like taken enough medication to like make it work. But at the same time, do I want to get other people sick? No. Do I want to fly with a sore stomach? Like, absolutely not.
No.
I also am a metaphobic, so and I was like super nauseous. So I was not only anxious about throwing up, but I was also anxious. Well, yes, yes. I was not only anxious about other people seeing me throw up, but anxious about throwing up myself because I'm a metaphobic. So it would have just been awful. I'm really sad to have missed it. But I cannot wait to hear about it. So without further ado, Emma and Boston.
yeah, thank God Boston was there to join me. I told Boston, I was like, if she wasn't there, I probably just would have not done anything. Like I just felt, I thank God for Boston for being there.
Thank God for Boston.
Thank God for Boston. Um, but you know, it was a very short trip, but it was a lot of fun. And you know, we met up with Hannah and Zoe from the Fan Behavior podcast because they were also there. And so Boston mentioned the hate that she was getting earlier this episode. So we're gonna dive into that like right now, like what happened. So we, like me, Boston, Hannah, Zoe. Um, okay, if I say Hannah at all during this episode, I'm 99% probably talking about Hannah from Fan Behavior, not my Hannah, Track Talk Hannah.
Which
Every
can we
person we
go ahead?
say, sorry, Hannah, go.
No, you go.
Oh, I was just gonna say, you will find out as we tell the tale of our trip last week. Every person we hung out with last week was named Hannah or Zoe.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's it.
Um, can we
It's
also,
confusing.
before we even start, like just take a second to like remember that Hannah Hall and I have never been in a room together, and
Hmm.
the fate continues to not allow us to be in a room together. So I don't know what that says about the power that the two of us hold, but it's actually scary.
I know we told Hannah that
Yeah,
like we told her like you were sick, you weren't coming, and she was concerned for your health and well-being, but before she was concerned, she was like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" Like
Yeah.
like that was her reaction because we thought
yeah,
the Hannahs would finally be together. They were not. It was unfortunate. But me, Boston, Hannah, and Zoe were together, and we decided to film a one of those videos, that trend that's going around, that's we listen and we don't judge. And so the idea of that trend is you say something that you would be judged for, but you're with your friends, you're in a safe place, so we listen and we don't judge. So I started off by saying we listen and we don't judge. I would die for Lance Stroll. Hannah and Zoe, there, what they said, I feel like they weren't really like judgmental, like as judgmental as what me and Boston said. Like Hannah said she didn't know
yeah.
that Interlagos and Brazil were the same thing.
That
Fair.
made me laugh.
That's fair. And
That's
then
fair.
Zoe's was like, I didn't know what S, M, and H stood for when I got into Formula One, which I feel like also fair. And then
Yeah.
Boston's was, Boston, you want to share what yours was?
I said, and I have an explanation for it. So I want everybody to turn their listening ears on and to pay attention and lock in because I have what I believe is valid reasoning that people would feel better about when they know. So mine was I thought it was time for Daniel Ricciardo to leave Formula One when he did. And it ruffled a lot of feathers and it made a lot of people upset. And I knew it would. And that is okay. You are allowed to feel what you want to feel. But the reasoning is I love Daniel Ricciardo. Daniel Ricciardo is one of the reasons why I got into Formula One because I liked I studied a lot of sports management and sponsorship and marketing in school. So I thought the personality of Daniel Ricciardo was so fascinating of how it was the gateway for a lot of people to get into Formula One because he is just such a lovable, fun-loving guy. So I love Daniel Ricciardo. Part of the reason why I got into Formula One, I he was my gateway, okay? I had a really hard time watching him go from team to team and not being given the respect and the treatment that he deserves. And it's almost like watching someone go through like an on and off again relationship of like, I know you should leave. I know you deserve better. I know you're not being treated well. So I know you don't want to, but you have to walk away. And it the way that he left was so nasty and dirty and disgusting to him. And I absolutely hate it, hate it, hate it for him. And I wish it could have been on better terms. But I am glad that he has left and he left a good impression behind and a fantastic career behind. And when that fan approached him with the video and was like, like, are you gonna go to Cadillac? Like, are you gonna come back to Formula One? He was like, yeah, no. I was actually really glad because it's just he had a fantastic career and I just hated watching him get stomped over. So I was really glad that he left when he did. And I hope this explanation gives some people peace of mind because I do not hate him. I love him. And that was my very lengthy reason to why I said that. And we listen and we don't judge.
We listen and we don't judge. I will say a lot of the comments that were directed at you were like split pretty evenly. Like,
Yeah.
last girl's got to go, or like, now she has a point. Like,
Hmm.
whereas a lot of comments directed towards me, I would say about 90% of them were like, we're judging and we're judging hard. Like
Yeah.
I took some screenshots of like some of my favorite comments. Is insane. First of all, I get it. My wording maybe wasn't the best. I said I would die for Lance Stroll. There is literally no one on this earth I would die for except for like my twin sister. Okay, so I'm not actually gonna die
Valid.
for like a driver I don't know. That being said, I do love him. And like I make that very
Hmm.
obvious. But someone said dying for P20 every race is crazy. The first girl is like me, so I was the one that said first. First girl is a massive red flag, red flag, red flag, red, 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 red. I said, okay, cool. Someone said Lawrence paid the first one. I wish he did. He didn't. That would have
You
been
would you be I wish for you, for your benefit, Lawrence had paid you to say
a
that.
wish. Someone said anyone who likes Lance Stroll is my enemy without introduction, which I think is kind of funny. Like I've never had an enemy before,
That
so
is
that's cool. And then my favorite comment is, "She's brain dead. Let's start a GoFundMe for her lobotomy ASAP." I was like,
that's so creative.
that's such a creative insult. I was like, yeah, I love it. It's like fair. I probably do need a lobotomy, but not because I like Lance Stroll. Like
Uh,
there's like 12 other reasons why I should get one. He's not on that list.
mhm.
Like,
And I think like the problem is like I really don't, excuse my language, I really don't give a fuck if people are like, the last girl's gotta go, or like what she said was wrong. You're allowed to feel what you feel. I said my piece, like whatever, right? But my favorite thing is I kept reading the comments, not because I was like, oh, I'm getting hate, or like I want to see people agree with me. I was looking for the creative ones
yeah,
because people being people being hateful and creative is like the funniest thing that you could possibly do.
yeah.
You've always said, Boston, if
Hateful,
you're gonna
yeah.
if you're gonna say something mean, make it a zinger. That's like a Boston Cuda line.
If you're gonna say something mean, make it funny because then I won't be offended at all. It's
Yes.
impossible
Yes.
for me to be offended if I'm laughing. So half of
Also,
them were really funny.
yeah, that really showed who listens to only fan behavior and who listens to Track Talk because
Hmm.
any of our Track Talk listeners were like not super surprised. They were just like, oh, Emma, whatever.
But then there were
Right.
people that don't listen to either podcast, and it just showed up on their trending page, and
Yeah.
they took
Yeah.
personal offense to the fact that I love Lance Stroll and the fact
Yeah.
that it
Yeah.
was Danny Rick's time to go. Which, by the way, we've talked to many people in the last few days who agree. Who
I
agree?
I talked to, and I want everybody to know that I talked to Zoe, known Daniel Ricciardo fan. I said, this is what I'm gonna say, and we hugged it out and we're good and we talked about it. Like I had her blessing.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
I will
So
say, Emma, it is jarring to people that don't know you when they ask who your favorite Formula One driver is and you say Lance Stroll. Like that is a jarring response.
Yeah, I know. No one, I mean, I feel like no one really expects that response to come out of anyone when they're like, "Oh, who's your favorite driver?" Lance Stroll. It's like,
Yeah,
sorry,
yeah,
what did you just say?
yeah.
But like, hey, I love him. I think he's a great driver. He wasn't P20 every single race. Okay, did he have a few DNFs? Yes. Did he crash out on the fucking formation lap, Sao Paulo? Fucking yes. Unfortunately, he did. So
what?
what? Like, I hit a curb, like it's cool.
Your Honor, like, so what? Like, oh my God, like, so what?
Your Honor, like it's really
Whatever.
not that big of a deal. Anyway, that's all we'll say. Hey, don't.
No, to be fair, Charles did it the year before, so I got nothing. I have nothing to say.
It just, you know what? It happens. And we all have our favorites. We all have opinions. Okay, we can shift gears back to why we were in Charlotte in the first place. So we got invited by Ford Performance to head to Charlotte for their Ford Performance season launch for 2025. Um, and I'm not gonna lie, when we first got the email, we were like, what is this? Like, we're not one, we don't really know much about Ford in the motorsports world, except for the fact that they signed for 2026 with Red Bull as a power unit provider. Right? Yeah, that's it. That's
Engine manufacturer.
NG manufacturer is the best way to put it.
Manufacturer.
I was like, how do I put this? Um, and so getting there or like being there was just an experience of itself, just learning about what Ford does in motorsports. Like they're not just a car. Okay, this is gonna sound so stupid. They're not just a car company, which I know they're not just a car company. Like I know that they're involved in motorsports, but I don't think I knew the extent until I was there in Charlotte. And so they had just come from winning, or this was literally like a week after winning the Rolex 24 with their Mustang GT3, like in that series. And this is the first time the Mustang had won globally, like to that level, which was really cool to learn about. So I was like, oh, okay, like they're involved in IMSA, like that I know. But then learning about their off-road racing and what they do in Baja and Dakar and like seeing that was really interesting. And then also the truck series, and then finding out that they're pretty much involved in like every single aspect of motorsports and like every single series that they could have been involved in, except I'd say like for Formula E, and up until now, like Formula One and WEC. But then I'm all over the place. But now they will be involved in Formula One and they will be involved with WEC, which is really, really exciting and I'm super pumped for. And so yeah, so being there, it was pretty much like a whole day event. Like it was just learning about the series, learning about the vehicles, like getting a chance to ride in some of these race cars and like was insane. So yeah, I the first ride that I did was with Frankie Muniz, which was fun. And I couldn't remember what show he was in for a minute. I was like, what show was he? Like, okay, the thing is though, I never watched Malcolm in the Middle as a kid. I never watched it. I watched Big
I
Fat
didn't watch it
Liar, so
either.
I knew Big Fat Liar, and that's like all I
Did you
pretty
say
much.
anything to him about Big Fat Liar?
No, I didn't actually.
Oh.
Actually, pause before we dive into your hot lap experience. Can we maybe explain what the events were, like what we were doing, like where we were at, and all that kind of stuff? Just give them some context.
Hell yeah. We went to we went to Charlotte Motor Speedway, and they had drive along and ride along sessions, drive sessions, ride along sessions, whatever you want to call it. Then they had like a panel session, so we got to hear from some of the race car drivers and like people that involved in Ford Performance. And so it was like a jam-packed day. And it was just for us to get content to like experience the power of some of these vehicles. And so the first thing that our group was in, which by the way, I have a little bit of a bone to pick with Ford Performance. I love them so much, but they gave us a pink sticker. We were in the pink group and the pink looked red, but then it also kind of looked orange. And none of us knew what group we were in. Turns out we were in the pink group, but none of us knew we were in the pink group because it looked like we were
Who
in the
else
red
was in your
group.
group?
Hannah and Zoe, and then these two twin brothers,
Okay.
Preston, and I don't know the other guy's name. But all of us thought we were in the red group because the sticker looked red. It wasn't, it was pink, which is fine. I just feel like next year they need to get colors that are obvious because even the yellow sticker, it was supposed to be the orange group and it wasn't. It was a whatever, it doesn't matter.
Leave
Um,
it to Emma to find. We always talk about this, you and I, how you find the smallest like details,
Stupidest
like
things to get annoyed with.
yeah, to like hone in on, and that's what like you take away. It's the funniest thing.
It was valid though, because they're like, okay, the sticker on your credential correlates with what group you're a part of. And we're
Okay.
like, awesome. So they're like, red, go outside, pink, go over here, orange, go over there, yellow, go over there. And these colors, while they are not, they're in the same family, right? They're on this kind of like the same side of the wheel. So they all looked the same. And then every person who was there, we were all standing outside being like, I think that's red. I think that's orange. I don't know what pink looks like. Like we could not differentiate. So it was in
It's
the
valid.
moment a big deal.
But I just feel like next year use red and yellow and blue and green, and then you're fine. You have no problems. I don't know where pink and orange came from. Doesn't matter. Everything else ran smoothly. It's just the stickers. But the first ride along, or the first thing that we did, we were kind of like in a holding group. So we just like were getting content. We were just watching other groups like get in, or other people that were attending like get in the cards, drive off, that sort of thing. And so we were filming some content. I kind of did like a quote unquote like mic'd up. Like I just had the mic and I was just like saying every single thought that came to my mind. Some of them were absolutely stupid. So I'll post it eventually, like the video that we made. But then I had sat on the edge, like the barrier, right? And I was just chatting with the guy next to me who turns out is Frankie Muniz's teammate in the Craftsman Truck Series Championship for NASCAR. So I was like, which was cool in itself, but also like learning about him and like learning about the, because I was honest, I was like, I don't know anything about Truck Series and I don't really know much about NASCAR. So he was explaining to me like his schedule and like what he does and talking about Frankie. And then it was my turn to get in the car and I was with Frankie. And then, which was, I know who he is. Like I feel like when I told my mom I was getting in the car with Frankie Muniz, she had no idea that he was a race car driver. So in her mind, she's probably thinking like Malcolm from Malcolm in the Middle is just in the car, which is like fair, but he is a race car driver. And he is a driver in the truck series. So he doesn't typically drive like the Mustang that he was in. So he was having the time of his life. And he is probably like the nicest guy, like so fun to talk to. He made sure like he's like, "Are you good? Should I slow down? Do you want to go fast? Like what do you want to do?" And I was like, "No, like pedal to the metal, like let's go. I did almost like want to shit myself because, it's scary. And I don't even like driving my car. But, if Frankie Muniz is in a race car driving you, like obviously you want the full experience, right? So that was cool. And then at that point, I don't know why, but for some reason, like we weren't on the schedule to like to drive. Like we were just spectators for some reason. And I was like, oh, like that's fine. Like I don't really need to drive. But then one of the guys was like, well, do you want to drive? And I was like, sure. Like, yeah, I guess so. Yes, Hannah?
They asked us ahead of time if we wanted to drive, and we said absolutely not.
I said I wouldn't be against it. Like, but I never like flat out said no. And so I kind
Okay.
of thought there'd be like a follow-up conversation,
Okay. I
but
thought
there
we both
wasn't.
said no because I remember you being like, I don't even like driving my car, like what you just said.
That's fair. Like I don't, but I was like, I wouldn't like I feel like, how do you say no to that?
Yeah, that's fair.
I didn't go fast. I wasn't allowed to go fast because I like the guy because there was a driver in the car with you. Like I drove
Oh,
a Mustang. And I wrote it down. I know what I drove. So I drove a Mustang FP 800S, which he told me that means 800 horsepower. And I was like, that is way too many horsepower for me to be in charge
That's
of.
a lot of horses.
That's
a
a
lot of
lot of horses. Um, but the guy walked me through it. It wasn't like it was automatic. So I didn't have to, like, I told him, I was like, I can't drive manual. Like, I can't do it. But he was like, just let the car what did he say? He was like, let the car speak to you. And I was like, I don't speak car. Like, I don't know what I'm supposed, like, what do you mean? Like, he's like, don't go any faster than you're not comfortable with. Like, the car will tell you what to do. And I was like, I don't know what that means. I don't, okay, whatever. So I really didn't go any faster than like 80 miles per hour, which is like 120 kilometers per hour, which is what I will do
oh,
on
pretty
like,
fast.
I'll do that like on the perimeter, right? And even then I'm like, I think it's like 110 or something.
That's the perimeter is 100, so that's speeding, but I love that for you.
Some places it's 110.
Where
Anyway,
the
it's
fuck's the
fast.
perimeter?
Oh,
Okay, so
what's it?
our city where we're both from, Winnipeg, is surrounded by a perimeter highway. It's like a big,
So it's a highway.
Yeah,
yes,
we call it the perimeter.
we call it the perimeter,
Okay.
yeah.
Anyway, so I'll do
I thought you guys called freeways and highways a different name. I'm like, no way,
I don't know
bro.
what a freeway is.
we don't
We
have
don't use that
freeways in
term.
Winnipeg.
Yeah.
So a freeway, the best way I can describe it, and I'm probably wrong, so huge grain of salt. A freeway is like a major highway that is just nonstop go, go, go. There's no
Okay.
stoplights, there's no stop signs, there's no intersections. Where a highway can have intersections in it.
Got it.
So there can be a stoplight, it's usually it's like you'll go like a distance and then as you get into a town there'll be stoplights and then as you travel to another town there'll be like it'll just be like a freeway. Um but
Well,
yeah, so that's kind of the
most
difference.
I'd say like most cities, a lot of cities will have like correct me if I'm wrong, but like freeways like through the city and then you like merge
Mhm.
off to get like into whatever neighborhood or street that you want to.
Yeah.
We don't have that in Winnipeg.
We're not that
Same.
high tech.
Anyway,
Yeah, I'm from California, so I love a good freeway. So I love a good 8-lane freeway.
no, see, I was on the freeway in Minneapolis and I was stressed out and I was like, I never want to drive this again. So anyway, also want to clarify that while Charlotte Motor Speedway is an oval, they do have a road course like in
The
the oval,
Roval.
the Roval. And then so that's what I was on. I wasn't on the oval. I wasn't driving the
Yeah.
oval. But I got to do 2 laps in this really nice car. And you know what? All I could think about, I don't know who I told that. I don't know if I said this to like the guy that like the driver that was beside me or just someone working for Ford, but I'm like, this is a really cool experience and I'm having like a really fun time driving this like really souped up Mustang. But all I'm thinking about is like my ex would be so fucking jealous right now because like
You told Georgia.
did I tell Georgia that? Okay, because he's a car guy. So like I was like, I am gonna make the most of this because like this is just me being petty at that point. But that's okay.
Mhm.
Anyways, that's what was going through my mind as I'm hitting 80 miles per hour on the Roval, which is not that fast. Yes,
You
Hannah.
know, that is so funny that you say that because I actually don't know if I'll keep this in the episode or not. I've never told this story before, but I have a family member who, when in the early stages of Track Talk, at a family event openly berated me for track talk,
Yeah.
um, saying, stuff like, why would anyone want to listen to what I have to say about cars? I don't, you do even know the difference between a V6 and a V8 engine. Why would I want to listen to you? You're being an opportunist and like that's great for you, but like it's just something like he kept saying like, but what do you bring to motorsports? What do you bring? Like, anyways, that was a really traumatic thing that happened to me. That was last January. And that family member and I don't really talk anymore, but he's been loyal to Ford forever, has only ever driven Ford vehicles. And when we got the invite to this event, my biggest thing, I was really excited to be invited to the event. I thought it would have been so cool, and I'm sad I didn't get to go. And it would have been super cool, like you said, like that's not why you wanted to do it, but man, was I freaking pumped to go to that event and be invited. Well, I was invited by Ford, so I can still say that, and have all these experiences that Ford Performance wanted me to have with them, and be able to take that back to that member of my family and say, you know what? You know who did care what I had to say? Ford Performance.
Ford.
Suck on that.
Ford. Hmm.
Well, even though you weren't there, Han, everybody at Ford was really upset that you weren't
Yeah.
there. And we were like, because every time we talked to somebody, approached somebody, they would be like, "Ugh, I'm so upset Hannah isn't here. Like, I'm so upset for you guys. Hannah isn't here." And we're like, us too, because we were bringing it up left and right, like, oh, we're supposed to have another person with us. Everybody at Ford was really upset. They knew you weren't there. They were upset that you weren't there. So even if that gives you a little bit of peace of mind and another screw it to that family member, um, they know who you are and they were upset that you weren't there because they wanted you to be there.
Another thing that you can tell this family member, Jim Farley, CEO of Ford, listens to Track Talk.
Hey, I saw that. Is that real?
That's what he said. So we'll get into like that part now.
Yeah,
So
okay, okay,
after
we'll save it.
the ride along, oh, also riding in the Raptor, like the Dakar Raptor, which absolutely insane. I have a video compilation of my reaction
Is
in the
that the one that you were in that video?
yes,
Oh God,
because
That is
okay.
an
like
insane machine. Like
that
it
is
is a
like,
crazy piece of machinery.
and so that's the one that's like the that type of car. That's what Carlos Sainz Senior races in. Like that's the kind of off-road like rallying like that's his race. So or like his type of vehicles. Anyway, like being in it and riding in it, like I like it was just like we went through like dunes. I would say I don't know if they were sand dunes or whatever they were, like where this off-road track was, but it was just like hills and we were going like we had all these jumps and I was just like holding on for dear life and hence my reaction. So if you saw the track talk story, just like the compilation like picture that I did of all like six different reactions, like that was my face the entire time. But it was insane. It was so much fun. But
So you were on the dirt track when you were doing that, like the
yes,
hilly dirt track.
it
Okay,
was
cool. That's super cool.
insane. It was super cool. And so all these experiences kind of made me like definitely appreciate um all the like Ford more and like know them as not just a car manufacturer. Like they do so much and they're part of so many things. And we sat in on a panel session as well. I'm trying to see, I took notes. It was a few of the drivers and then Will Ford as well. Was it Will Ford? I think it was Will Will Ford. People that are involved in the Ford performance side of things. Let me hang on, guys. Let me find my notes. I can't find my notes. During the panel session, they were chatting about like they understand that Ford is a car manufacturer. Like they half of what they do is selling cars to just regular people, and half of what they do is Ford Performance, it's motorsports. And so they talked about wanting to have like they talked about how being in motorsports and how they're so like all how do I word this? Like all of the steps and like all the progress that they make in motorsports, it goes back to the regular consumer. Like it goes back into the products that regular people can buy. Like they said that they want to have as much motorsports possible infused into the products that the general public can buy. And that's true with like getting into like EV, so like electronic vehicles, right? They want to have like their regular buyers like excited about that because they're excited about like moving forward in more like hybrid units, especially with like getting into Formula One. Like they know it's hybrid. Anyway, I don't know. Like they understand like there's a line obviously between like motorsports and like the regular car manufacturers, but they
There
try.
is a direct correlation. I
Yes.
believe what you're saying, there's a direct correlation from performance on the track to consumer,
Yeah.
Right.
and the effect that they have on track affects their sales and the consumer and
Mhm.
people wanting to buy into them as a company.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
Right.
it. Thanks, Boston.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, look at so if you have a super reliable vehicle on track, why would you not assume then that your reliability wouldn't translate to like a normal highway? So that
Yeah.
totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well,
it
and I
was,
also from this, sorry,
no, you go.
I was just like to your point exactly of what you already brought up. It was cool to hear it from the actual from Ford themselves of we understand that people like what they see on track. So we take
Components.
these things and we take these components and we put them in the car that you can drive around as your day to day. We put
Yeah.
them in the Raptor. We put them in this. And that was something as I had a Ford car for a long time and I loved my Ford car. And that was something really cool to hear as someone who had a Ford car of like, I did not realize that these things I was seeing in their performance vehicles were being put in my cute little SUV. And I love that. And while it may not have been my little SUV specifically, it made me love my car even more of like, I didn't know they were doing that. And I absolutely love that
Mhm.
because now as a motorsport fan, I look at my car slightly differently of like, I didn't know you guys were doing that. That's so cool. So
No, yeah, like well said. So it was an interesting panel session. And then after that, like after the day at the track, we were able to go to the actual launch. So this is where they announce like all everything that they're doing for the 2025 season, anything that's coming up in the future. They talked about their like the win at like IMSA, like the Rolex 24. They had a lot of like important people come up and speak, right? And so there is when we had the chance to talk to Christian Horner and Liam Lawson, which was a super cool, super surreal experience. To just like walk into the room and Christian Horner is just sitting at the table, like right there. Yeah, like yes, he's just a guy, but at the same time, you're like, oh, this guy is responsible for how many constructors championships. Like, so that it was cool. It was a really cool experience. And like I'm gonna put this in the podcast. Like we can keep it in the podcast. Like you can say what you want about Christian Horner, and like we're not just gonna excuse like the allegations that came out last year. Like we understand that that happened, but like we're not ignoring that that happened. But we can acknowledge that and acknowledge the fact that like he has done so much for Red Bull as well. So it was still really surreal to like meet Christian Horner and like talk to him. And so our idea, it was actually Hannah's idea, and so I was bummed that you weren't there to like do it because when you said that you weren't coming, I was like, fuck, now I need to think of what to do. Like I didn't have anything in mind. Um, we had this idea of like a newlywed game. So we renamed it. We called it like sink or spin, like to find out if Liam Lawson and Christian Horner are in sync or if they're gonna spin out. So we just the video will come out, so I don't want to like spill everything that they said, but it was interesting to see the two of them interact. And it was better than I feel like it was more fun than just like a regular Q&A session, like just asking them questions about like 2026 season, what they're excited for like the Ford coming into Formula One, like that sort of thing. So it was really fun to just have like a different kind of vibe with them. Yes, Hannah.
So you were able to actually get them together. You didn't do the game like you didn't film it separately?
No, get them together.
Okay, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
So it
That's
was
exactly what my vision was that you get the banter in
yeah.
person.
yeah, we got it.
Can't wait.
And they were super engaging. They had a good time with it. They were like there was like little quips back and forth of like, really? Like it was I I thoroughly enjoyed
Mhm. And like
watching it and I
le
think that everybody's gonna have a good time.
Yeah. And there was like people from their team there, right? Like they seem to have a good time too, like watching it. Like it's nice when you get like the background, like little comments from the
The
peanut
Red Bull
gallery.
team,
Like
yeah, the
they
Red
liked
Bull
it.
team was super. I do want to shout them out because obviously I am behind the scenes. Every video that you guys watch where we're at an event, I'm usually holding the camera and all that kind of stuff. So I take into account how people treat, obviously how people treat me, but like obviously they treat Emma with respect because she is the talent, but how I pay attention to that, right? And they pay attention to that. So the Red Bull team was super awesome. They were, joking with me. I love when people kind of like, my favorite compliment is when people compliment my name. They were complimenting my name and all that
Christian Horner
kind of
liked your name.
stuff.
He thought it was an
So
interesting name.
Christian Horner did like my name, which was weird.
And
But
then
yeah, I do want to shout out the Red Bull team. They were awesome.
That's awesome.
I will say that I did take a video of this as well, or Boston took a video of this as well. So like I'll probably make a clip and like add the video in. But as we were getting up to leave, someone from Liam's team pointed out that I have a 3 tattoo on me,
Mm.
and asked like, "Oh, did you get that for Danny Rick?" And I was like, I just looked at him and I was like, "No, I got it for me. Like it's my lucky number." And then Liam said something along the lines of like, "Oh, well, you should add a 0." And it didn't even like cross my mind that that's his number, like 30. I was just like, why would I do that? I
To be honest, I didn't know his number either. I thought he was driving under the number 7.
No, I don't know who's someone else is driving under nurse. Anyways, but I was just like, why would I do that? He's like, well, it's my number. And I was like, okay, you know what? What did I say next? I was like, okay, I would change it, but like this is my lucky number. Like, and if I look at it, it's an E. Like I almost had to like say like, no, I got this for me. Like I didn't get this for Danny Rick. I do have a Danny Rick tattoo, but like the 3 is not it. Like it's all good always. Like it's right. If they had just looked closer, they would have seen I actually did have a Danny Rick tattoo. Anyway, so Liam was like, you should add a 0. Like that's my number. You should add 30. So I said, you know what? If you win a race this year with Red Bull, I'll change it to a 30. And then so that's what we shook on. So we'll see. Like, I hope to God he wins a race, like because it's Liam Lawson. Like we like him. We're a fan of him at Track Talk. For his sake, I hope he wins a race. I don't really want to change my tattoo though. So it's bittersweet, I guess. Like I like my tattoo. Maybe I'll just get a different, like I'll get a 30
Maybe
somewhere else.
maybe he'll forget about it.
See, I feel like he would forget about it, but then I went and chatted with his girlfriend Hannah, another Hannah, because she was there with Zoe, racing Zoe, like the race car driver. She's in the Super Truck series. Another Hannah and
Everybody
Zoe.
needs to get a different fucking name for the love of God.
I know. It was funny seeing Hannah and Zoe meet Hannah and Zoe. Like that was just
Yeah.
really funny.
That was
So I was
crazy.
chatting with Zoe and Hannah, and like Hannah was like, "Well, Liam has to win. Like this has to happen." Like she was like she loved that idea. Like she thought it was funny. Anyway, so it was great. Like I'm definitely gonna post more clips and content of like us meeting Liam Lawson and like Christian Horner, and like that was just like that was incredible. I was a lot more calm than I thought I'd be. Like I thought I would. Was I
Because it was
calm?
very fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
I was like,
were.
was
Was
I
I?
calm?
Because it
Was
was
I
no, you were fine.
okay?
I think the only time I've seen you freak out was with Pato. Um, and that's like the only time where I had to be like, "Hey, you need to calm the fuck down." Um, but it happened very fast, hand. Like, and this is just now me explaining to you because we had a specific time that we were supposed to go do our thing and ended up being super crazy. There was like this little like room in the event that we were going to go do it at. There was too many people in the room, so we ended up getting kicked out. Just being there, like they're like, wait outside. We just need to get things calm in here first, and then you guys can come back in. Not that it was our fault. There was other like 10 million things going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so we were just waiting outside. Like we thought we were going to do it right then. So we had almost like prepared for that moment, and we were already in the room with Christian and Liam. So we'd already seen them, been right next to them. I even told Christian, I was like, "Excuse me," trying to get past him, right? Like we had already broken that ice. But then when it was time, it was super fast. They're like, "Okay, we're good to go. Let's do it. Let's rearrange the furniture and record, go." So there almost wasn't time to like sit and
To
think
freak
about of
out.
like,
Yeah.
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 Which I was
oh my
happy
gosh,
about.
this is people that we've watched for so long.
Yeah.
And we were in and out in like 10, 15 minutes. Like it
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
fast.
I'm
But
not totally surprised because the world of motorsports, like, no pun intended, is fast.
yeah.
Well, and they were I mean, to be fair, they're working that night. I mean,
Yeah.
as were we for like the first half of the night, but they are back to back to back. They did
Yeah.
us. They had an interview with somebody else. They had an interview with fan behavior. Like they were back to back to back. And then they had to get up to go into the actual main venue of the event, go up on stage, talk about, Ford being the manufacturer for Red Bull Racing and all this kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
then they
Yeah.
had, I know Liam had an autograph signing. So it was just like,
A
crazy. It was
lot.
a busy night for them, but very
Yeah.
fortunate that we were able to have the opportunity to do that with them.
Yes, Hannah.
I have a quick question, and that's okay if not, because like I don't even know if I'd be able to ask this, but sometimes you're a little bit more ballsy than I am. Would Liam ever come on the show? Did you ask?
I didn't ask,
Okay.
but I feel like he would.
Okay, so well, we can actually announce this now, probably, right?
I
Like,
think, yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so we as a Track Talk entity have now signed to an agency. It's called the Talent Bakery, if you've seen it. Lots of our friends are signed to the same agency. Zoe E Racing, Katie Samuel, who's been on the show before. Like I think that
Mhm.
that was one of her first clients that she had. And so now that we're under the same agency, like I do see that being like a potential thing that could work out for us to have him or Hannah or both on the show or whatever.
I'm optimistic.
So I wasn't sure, like obviously with that commonality, I wasn't sure whether you were going to ask or whether we were just gonna like try something at a later date. But like that's totally fine. Like I think that
No,
probably
I didn't even think about asking. Like I introduced Track Talk and they introduced me and I said like usually I have a co-host. I almost said I don't even know what I said. I almost said usually I have a podcast here. I said like I usually have a co-host, but she's not here. So like they're at least aware that we're not just like some girls who walked in with like a camera, right?
He didn't say that sometimes people are like, oh yeah, I've seen your clips. He didn't say that he's seen anything, hey?
I don't recall,
That's fine.
No.
but like that's also fine.
Yeah, no, 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 no. I
I'm
probably
not
wouldn't have that
hurt.
anyways. That's more like me just wondering.
Yeah.
The more, yeah, the most shocked, because you're right, sometimes we do get that. The most shocked is when Emma was done with her interview. I was asking her, I was like, how was it? How'd it go with Jim Farley? Sorry, I just forgot to say that. With Jim Farley, first thing she goes, he listens to Track Talk podcast with his daughter. I was like, what?
Yeah, so
That's
Wait,
so cool.
with
guys, that's the cutest thing in the world.
with Jim Farley, so we were able to chat with him first. So we had him, yes, Hannah.
Intro him, just intro him.
Yes, so Jim Farley is CEO of Ford. That's point blank period. Like that's it. He also avid race car fan and sometimes driver as well. Like he is all about race cars, all about cars in general. He is
And
so yes.
people kept, yep, just people kept describing him as just like a car
Mhm.
enthusiast. And I know that's such like you can call a lot of people car enthusiasts, but like we were hearing stories of just like he would go around and he would know exactly what race they performed in, what year, what engine they had, what everything. Like he is a true passionate enthusiast of cars. And it is so cool because he just like has spent so much time and energy studying cars, and he really is just like a very nice person and so passionate about it.
He was so great to talk to. So we had it was like this essentially like a pod is like or like the only thing I can describe it. I know if any of you are listening like work in an office, like you might have those phone booths that you go in for privacy to like make a call or whatever. It was kind of like that, but for people to sit on both sides. So I was in there and he came in and like I introduced myself, he introduced himself, and then essentially while yes, like I was interviewing him and like we're gonna get the audio and the video that we can eventually release. Like he was also using the clips and audio to combine and put on his podcast, which is called Drive with Jim Farley. Like that's what it's called. And so he was wanting to sit with other creators and like people in the industry to get his name out there, but also like have his name on our podcast, which I thought was super cool. And so talking to him was like the easiest thing. And like Hannah, you and I have mentioned this before. Like we're not really interviewers. Like we're just like, what do we talk about? But
Yeah.
conversation with him was super easy. Like I asked him, I wanted his opinion. I was like, okay, Formula One used to be all about like win on Sunday, sell on Monday, and he was like, that's not true. I don't see that anymore. Like there's so much other things that we can be doing, blah blah blah. Like if Ford is in motorsports, like that's its goal, and Ford in like he anyway, like he was so cool to talk to and just like get to know and just chat about motorsports. And I wanted to, like, I asked him how he felt about like his reaction when like his team won, or like when the Mustang crossed the line in first place at the Rolex 24. And he was like, I was an emotional mess, I was crying. And I was like, I love that. I mean, I don't love that you're crying, but like I love that. Like he was so
Yeah.
real. And it was just like I wish I had more time to chat with him. And so I'm gonna shout out him and like his podcast. Like go and listen to him. Like if you are a car enthusiast, if you love any form of motorsport, like he talks about it. So I said I was like, maybe I'll start listening to it with my dad because he listens to Track Talk with his daughter, which I was so because I asked him, like I said, like how old is your daughter? And he said that she was 17. I was like, yeah, that's like the age range of like our audience, like they're younger females. And because of partially I'm not going to say it's because of us, but like we're part of it, like because of Track Talk and like other podcasts and content creators, like his daughter started out just really knowing Formula One, and now she's branched out and like now she listens to more and watches more. And like obviously having her dad as CEO of Ford, like she's gonna be more interested in like other series of motorsports too. But like there's this
Could go
just
the opposite way.
yeah,
It could
I
be
mean,
like, that's
Yeah.
my dad's thing, that's not my thing.
mhm.
So,
And
wow.
so like this is something that's brought them together. And we talked about how there's so much like crossover with series and drivers, and like if you like this series you're like that series and that series. And so it I'm really excited to get the audio and the video back from that conversation because like it was probably like honestly like the highlight of the weekend was just chatting with him.
And I would say, like, obviously we were very nervous with every, thing that we did and every interview that we had. But from my perspective, I was most nervous for this interview just because Jim Farley is a very well respected, he's the CEO of Ford. Like, that's a big effing deal. And so it almost was kind of like, what do we, us, our cute little girly pop podcasts, what do we have to talk to him about? And I know we were like, Emma and I, the day before, were locking in, coming up with questions, researching. Like, we were putting in the time, being like, we want to make this like good. We have this opportunity. We want to utilize it. But I'm just so thrilled with how nervous that we were, how well it went, and it
Mhm.
ended up being, I think, when I walk away from our week last week, like that was one of my favorite things that we
Yeah.
got to experience was that interview went so well, and he is such a cool guy.
Yeah. Like it makes me want to buy a Ford.
I might need new cars soon, so maybe I'll
Yes, Hannah.
um I just want to weigh in here and say that I think it's such a beautiful thing that like Jim said that to you, because that that makes me so emotional because I have a relationship with my dad like that where we talk hockey. Whenever like we talk about other things too, but like that's where we bond, we talk hockey. And I know that sometimes it is when there aren't like common
Interests.
interest between a father and a daughter, it can be hard to like have that relationship. I know some of my friends
Mhm.
have expressed that exact same thing to me. So I feel very fortunate that I have that relationship. And if we played a 0.001% part of their relationship, like I really appreciate him saying that because
Hmm.
that is like that's wild.
It makes me so happy from my own personal experience that we are us. And when I say we, I'm not talking about our podcast. I am talking about other podcasts, other creators, other forms of female focused media and motorsports and sports in general. Like, this is a large umbrella I'm talking about. It makes me so happy that we have this community and that we are able to help so many young women and young individuals, regardless of gender, find their own passion and find their own love for these sports and these things. Because the amount of times I walk around with my motorsport gear and people ask me, I've been asked multiple times, is your dad a race fan? Is your brother a race fan? Relating it to the men in my life. And I love to uno reverse and go, actually, no, I'm the race fan. And now my dad and my brother pay attention to motorsport because of me.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I have paved that way in my family, in my own life. And it's such a cool thing to be like, nope, Uno Reverse, I'm actually the matriarch. Like I set this, like I made this happen because My dad now does pay attention to motorsport because of me. My brother now pays attention to motorsport because of me. And I love them for that. It just shows that they love me and they care about the things that I'm passionate about. But it's setting a new path and a new stereotype in a new way that, you know, women can get into this on their own. And we don't have to do it because the men in our life have instilled it into us. We do it because we truly love it for whatever reason. And so I'm just so happy that there are other forms of media and communities that these women can belong to, like Jim Farley's daughter. She could have easily gotten into it because of who her dad is, but she found her own way. And I'm not talking to just her, but other girls or other people in her
Mhm.
position. I think that's so fucking awesome. Go her, go all, go everybody listening. Like, we're all so cool and so fun.
And before we kind of like close out this little like emotional powwow that we're having here, um, Emma, like I want to say like you that hit me hard too when like you just said like no, Jim Farley wants to talk to you. And like that relates back to like the story that I've shared earlier in this podcast where it's like I literally got like bombarded with like who cares what you have to say? Why would anyone take information from you? Like, what place do you have? And that, and I'm giving you, to be honest, like no opportunity to respond back to that. And I think that like you just answered that question for me. Like Jim Farley, CEO of Ford Performance Motorsports, he wanted to talk
Mhm.
to us. He wanted to like have that time and relate this back to relate track talk back to Ford Performance, which sounds like a crazy thing to do, but like it happened. So,
Yeah.
and just like big thank you to like both of you guys for like just representing track talk in like the most like amazing way imaginable. Like I obviously would have liked to have been there, but like I really had no doubts like at all that like whether I was there or not, it was going to go off without a hitch. And like just like big love to both of you guys. Like you mean so much to me.
You guys are getting
Oh,
emotional.
we are
I
getting
Yeah.
emotional.
Like, okay. Just I feel like honestly there's not too much else I want to add. Like that's like it was a quick day, but exactly it was. It was a day. It wasn't like a race weekend. But it was
Mhm.
nice too because we were accepted and we were so open and honest about the fact that like no, we actually don't really talk about NASCAR ever. Like we don't really understand NASCAR. Like we're going into
Yeah.
this not knowing and this is educational for us so we can bring it back to our audience and hopefully um as we learn, we can help them learn. And like we said, like, yeah, like last year we were getting more into Formula E. This year we're trying to get more into like one, say LGP and like, IMSA or WEC. Like we were honest about the fact that like we don't know anything about NASCAR, but we were still like accepted and our questions were answered and like people still wanted to talk to us and like which I loved. And that's I feel like that's so it can be intimidating, like going into the space, like knowing almost that you don't like, I'll use quotations like don't belong, but we still felt like we belonged. And that was,
Mhm.
I'm gonna just huge shout out to Ford Performance and that entire team. And like it was just such a great experience for us. And I know like other people that went, like they had a great time. It was fun, it was educating, um it was incredible is like just a word that I can compare it to.
And on top of all the meaningful stuff, the event itself was absolutely spectacular. There
It
was
looked
tons of
cool.
people there. They had all these different Ford vehicles. They had Sims. They had this huge. They had the actual, Mustang that won IMSA. Like they had just these crazy things. It was such a cool event to like even attend. So the fact that we were asked to attend in general was incredible. And then the
But
fact
then
that we
to ask
got,
to speak to people, it's like, okay,
speak to
sure.
people was great. Like it just again, it was moments like this where again, not to be sentimental, and Han, I wish you were there
Mhm.
because gosh, it was you would have absolutely loved it. But from my perspective, I was just so incredibly beyond proud of you guys of just how far you guys have come and the places that you're able to get to and the things you're able to do just because of your hard work, your passion, and sticking with it regardless of what family members or what people online say. Like you've created such a cool thing that people love and people relate to and people have found community and have found friendship and have found all these amazing things just based on this little podcast that you guys started like what 2 years ago. And
Two, I don't even
I
know.
just kept every single thing that you like Emma was doing, I just literally had that go off in my head of just I'm so proud of them. I'm so proud of them. I'm so proud of them because it's we talk about the cool stuff all the time. We show the cool stuff all the time, but I feel like the three of us really take advantage the like the opportunities that we get and taking the time for you guys to be proud of yourselves because of the amount of work and dedication and passion that you have put into this. And I just want you guys to hear it from me that I'm very proud of you guys, even if half of us weren't there. You were there with us in spirit.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Boston. We love you. We love Track Talk. We love anyone who listens or watches Track Talk. Yeah, it was a fun and quick 48 hours.
Yes.
I'm gonna go home and cry because this is just a really emotional. But yeah, I think we could, unless you guys have anything else to say, like that was kind of like a wrap up, or like our 48 hours wrapped up. Also,
Um,
Hannah, question for you. Do you know what a blue oval is?
I saw you posted this on on your Instagram, and I was like, I don't actually know what a blue oval is.
It's Ford. It's like the
it's the
Ford
logo.
logo.
Oh,
It
oh
represents
yeah.
Ford.
Okay.
I had no
So
idea.
I didn't know that, but
I,
that makes
Yeah.
complete sense.
before we wrap things up, let's give some shout outs. Um, Shout out to Camilla.
Camilla.
She was so cool and so funny. She sat with us at dinner one night and she's with Ford and was just listening to Emma, Hannah, Zoe, and I yap and literally was just sitting there. And she was like, I just wanted to sit at the girls' table. And we're like,
No.
duh, we're so much fun. Ended up being one of the coolest people we met. Shout out to Georgia. Um, Shout out to Ford. Shout out to Talent Bakery. Shout out to everybody who made this happen.
Hmm.
Um, and I just want to say, from my perspective, thank you so much to Ford. Thank you so much to everybody who helped to get us here. And thank you so much to Emma and Hannah. I love you guys. Thanks for letting me be a part of this journey. Um, I already said thank you, Ford, but thanks, Ford, for letting us
Hmm.
come and cover some
Yeah.
stuff and talk to some people because we now will have walked away with so much more love and admiration for the company and are so excited to see what they do. Um, and I think that's a wrap for me. So,
Yeah, you've said everything that I would have said. So I guess
yeah.
we can call it Hannah. Yes.
Okay, you can say no. I won't be heartbroken. Were you able to snag me a hat?
So, okay. Georgia said she's gonna try sending you like a gift package because like they like ran out of stuff apparently, but also
So when you canceled, they ended up using your stuff for other people because they didn't have
Yeah,
enough
that's fine.
stuff. But when they get back to wherever they're gonna do, they're gonna send you your swag.
Oh,
hopefully.
wow.
But
That
also
made my week.
if not, you can have my hat.
That's okay. I just was wondering because I know that you were like, oh yeah, I was in my room, and I was like, oh, I wonder if there's one for me. Totally okay. I wasn't
You're
there. I
funny.
couldn't make it. So,
We
well,
talk we talked to them about it.
Yeah.
okay, that's super cool. Thank
You're
you.
always on our mind.
Thank you.
Um, okay,
And now
Boston, are you ready
that makes
for
me wanna. Sorry,
what?
I was just saying now that and makes me want to buy a Ford
I know I want
because
to buy a Ford. I was trying to think. I
my
was like,
bad
have I
luck.
ever had a Ford? But my mom used to have a Ford, and it was her favorite car until it died.
I will I will take any opportunity to talk about the car that I had because I love that car.
Yeah, you love your little red box thing.
I had a 2012 Ford Flex, bright fire engine red, okay? And I had that car from when I was 16 years old till it quite literally died on me when I was driving on the freeway when I was 22 years old, a month and a half before I graduated college. I loved my Ford Flex. His name was Harrison because he was a Ford, so Harrison Ford or Harry. And I I drove my friends and I everywhere because it fit everybody, it fit all of our shit. I ran that thing into the ground and Harry, I miss you every single day, bro. You were the love of my life. I never understood when people said they loved their car. I loved my car.
Hmm. Um,
Woo!
okay, I think we can end it there. Boston, are you ready for our outro?
Yeah.
Okay. This was a recap of our time in Charlotte with Ford Performance for their season launch.
We are Track Talk.
Ka-chow for now.
Perfect.